When engagement shifts from task-oriented requirements to more relational moments, the work becomes more effective and more human. I'm Leslie Cohen, the project director for the QIC-EY.
Welcome to Elevating Engagement, a podcast from the Quality Improvement Center on Engaging Youth and Finding Permanency, or QIC-EY. I'm your host, Kyle Ferreira. Today, I'm joined right away by someone who has helped shape how this work is communicated and understood. April Dinwoodie is a communications consultant for QIC-EY and has played a key role in translating the project's learning into clear, actionable messages. April, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. I'm so glad to be part of this conversation with you today.
So let's start at the foundation. When we say QIC-EY, what are we talking about?
Yeah, well, at its core, QIC-EY is a national initiative focused on strengthening how child welfare systems authentically engage and empower children and youth in foster care, especially in permanency decision-making. The goal of the project is to move engagement from something that's more procedural or required to something that's relational and meaningful. Because we know that when engagement is authentic, it improves outcomes. It's just really that simple.
And those outcomes are very important to name.
Yeah, these outcomes are important to name. Elevating engagement contributes to improved permanency and transition outcomes. It can reduce time and care and expand safe permanency options, including kin and reunification. And it promotes fairness in decision-making, increasing young people's satisfaction with and commitment to the permanency decisions that really affect their lives. It strengthens both the child well-being and the agency well-being.
So this sounds like it's a multi-partner effort, correct?
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, this work is not done alone, right? This work is done in groups and in efforts that are collective. And for this, the QIC-EY is a cooperative agreement with the United States Department of Health and Human Services, the Children's Bureau. And the project is led by Spalding for Children. Spalding coordinates the work alongside 3 partner agencies, the University of Washington School of Social Work that leads the evaluation, ensuring that the work is grounded in evidence. This is so important, as we know. The University of Nebraska at Lincoln supports workforce development, including the design of the curriculum. And the New England Association of Child Welfare Commissioners and Directors advances engagement through the lived experience partnerships. So, together, the structure brings research, practice, leadership, and lived experience into alignment. And that is so very important.
So very important. And this work is being tested and implemented in real time across the country?
Oh, yes. It is. QIC-EY partners with 7 pilot sites: Hawaii, Michigan, Missouri, Montana, Rhode Island, the Oklahoma Southern Plains Tribal Consortium, and Yakama Nation. Each site is implementing a model that centers children and youth as active partners in decision-making, along with training and capacity building efforts that strengthen engagement skills for caseworkers, core professionals, and agency leaders. The insights from these sites inform every tool, every resource, and every message we share, including the messages we're sharing on this podcast. So it's pretty cool. They're amazing sites, and it's been really wonderful to watch these sites blossom into their work over time.
Wow, these pilot sites seem essential to this work. But before we move into the key messages, it's worth noting the language listeners will hear throughout this series.
Yeah, for sure. We primarily use the phrase individuals with lived experience, and that reflects QIC's commitment to recognizing experience-based expertise and honoring partnership beyond age or role. This is critically important, and you'll hear that language, individuals with lived experience, throughout this podcast and throughout our work.
And this actually leads to key messages you helped to develop. Can you tell us why these are so essential?
Well, they're essential because QIC-EY spans so much: systems, roles, regions. And without a shared language, engagement can mean very different things to different people and different roles. And we found that out for sure at the beginning of this project, which really helped us ground in the fact that we needed to make sure that people were understanding what engaging children and youth in this work really was. These key messages provide a common framework. They help professionals pause and reflect on how engagement shows up in their daily work and where it could evolve. And we developed them using this to-from approach. It invites reflection and movement, for example, from passion to proficiency, or from deciding for youth to deciding with youth. So really practice practical stuff and things that folks can use in their work on the daily.
So these messages are both practical and aspirational. How did they come to life?
They are that. They're practical and they are aspirational and inspirational. But they're really practice anchors, and they put the words and the work of this project into action. We arrived at them by listening, of course, across all the pilot sites, across disciplines, and most importantly, I think, to individuals with lived experience. Over time, we saw clear patterns that emerged around what makes engagement really authentic and effective. And these messages distill those patterns into something usable and practical for professionals. And they remind us that authentic engagement is built one interaction at a time and over time.
And that's exactly what we'll explore in today's episode. Thank you so much for getting us started, April.
Yeah, Kyle, it's been so fun to talk to you. And I know this project is really going to enlighten and bring this elevation to the work of engaging children and youth in child welfare. So thanks.
Now, let me introduce Leslie Cohen, Project Director for the QIC-EY. Leslie brings deep systems leadership and perspective to this work and has helped guide QIC-EY from vision to implementation. Leslie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Leslie, I think the big question is why QIC-EY?
That is a big question. At its core, the QIC-EY exists because authentic engagement of children and youth is foundational to child welfare practice, not optional. The importance of engagement, particularly in child welfare, seems like it should be intuitive. But across systems and generations for all time, we've really struggled with how adults in institutions build relationships with younger people, especially when the stakes are high. When decisions involve safety or timeliness or legal authority, the instinct for adults is to move quickly and to protect by controlling the process. The result is ultimately that adults do things for children and youth instead of doing them with children and youth. And this leaves them without agency, feeling misunderstood, feeling like they're not listened to, and as we all know, that dynamic can create a tension.
So, what can that mean for children within the system now, and where does QIC-EY play a role?
So, in child welfare, this challenge is actually amplified. The consequences of decisions are life-altering, and when children and youth aren't meaningfully engaged, when they're not informed or they're informed too late, when they're consulted without preparation or spoken about rather than with, systems really miss critical information, relationships fracture, and ultimately outcomes suffer as a result of that. So that's where the QIC-EY comes in. This work is about interrupting that pattern. It's about acknowledging that engagement isn't always intuitive, especially in high-pressure systems. It's a skill, it's a mindset, and a practice that has to be learned by workers, supported by systems, and sustained by both. This project really exists to create systems that value and support, through policy and practice, engaging children and youth in their own permanency planning, to elevate the skills of child welfare professionals so they can build those trusting relationships and share power appropriately with children and youth. And lastly, it's to create a pathway for individuals with lived experience to participate meaningfully in systems change that actually promotes and supports authentic engagement.
This makes a lot of sense, Leslie, but can you boil this down even more for us?
Most simply, if I had to boil it down, I'd want to say that this work is so important because when engagement shifts from task-oriented requirements to more relational moments, the work becomes more effective and just quite simply more human.
Thank you so much, Leslie. I mean, this is so powerful and both essential and complicated work. So tell me, what are the core components of QIC-EY?
Yeah, at its heart, the QIC is really about helping professionals build the skills and confidence needed to engage children and youth, especially in moments that are really complex or time sensitive. I mean, child welfare is filled with lots of emotion, as well as ensuring that the systems they work in have the capacity to promote and support engagement. Because if the system can't support it, it's impossible for a worker to really engage successfully. One of the core components for our project is the workforce training curriculum that focuses on building the competencies that research shows are necessary for a worker to really engage a child or youth effectively. Things like communication and preparing the child and youth and relationship building and cultural connections. The list goes on. We also have an asynchronous training program for court personnel. It's focused on youth engagement and child welfare in legal proceedings. You may be saying, how'd the court get in here? It's really important that the child welfare's agency biggest partner, the court, is on the same page with the agency with respect to engaging children and youth. We can't really be successful without one another. So we brought them along. We also have a site-specific youth program model being implemented in each of our sites that we're working with that provides a structured, intentional opportunity for engagement of children and youth in case and permanency planning. And lastly, we have one last component, which focuses on really site-specific capacity building activities aimed at supporting meaningful shifts in mindset, practice, and agency culture so that authentic youth engagement becomes a foundation of everyday child welfare practice.
Wow, so there's a lot of people that are involved in this. But can you tell me who is QIC-EY exactly for?
So, one thing that I want to be really clear about is that the QIC-EY is for everyone working in child welfare. Everybody working in child welfare can impact change, and we've developed products and materials to support a wide range of professionals across all levels and functions. We've got stuff for caseworkers. For example, we have the QIC-EY now. It's filled with clips and tips that are focused on developing those competencies that I mentioned that are necessary to do really good engagement. And for each one, there's a clip that tells a scenario from someone who has lived experience or is a caseworker, and some tips on how to be successful in building that competency. We have materials for supervisors. We have materials for our court and legal partners, as I already mentioned. We have lots of materials for administrators or systems leaders that are shaping policy and practice. We have a whole lesson learned series. It focuses on helping a leader create the space and the system to support workers who want to engage or working towards engaging children and youth authentically. Gives a quick little lesson and then some practical ways to apply that lesson. It can be at a private agency or a public agency. And we also have a wonderful training curriculum that I also mentioned and coaching guides that accompany that training as well.
This all sounds so great. It sounds like there's something for everyone here, whether it be at a macro level or a micro level. But before we close here, I'm wondering, as QIC-EY enters its final year, what action do you hope listeners will take?
I hope individual listeners will become really intentional about their focus on child welfare engagement. For example, professionals who are working directly with children and youth should really take a moment, or I hope they'll take a moment to reflect on how they engage in their daily interactions, and ask themselves some important questions and determine can I be more impactful? Where can I be more impactful when it comes to engagement? So ask yourself things like, how am I showing up for children and youth? Am I open? Am I a person that somebody's going to want to talk to, or do I walk in looking like I don't want to hear from anybody that's in the room? And am I leaving space for their participation? For example, have I explained what's going on so they know what's going to happen when they enter a room? And also, how can I better prepare or partner with individuals with lived experience if we're talking about sort of broader systems issues? For all the directors and leaders listening, look, I hope we've piqued your interest in creating environments that support engagement and learning more about the QIC-EY. We have, as we noted, like a ton of free products. We hope that you'll check them out on our website, which is qic-ey.org. There's great stuff. And again, you can access all of it, and it is free and available to use as you see fit.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And is there anything that you would like to say as we close?
Yeah, I would. I'd like to let folks know that as we move into this final year, our focus is on sustainability. We want to make sure that authentic child and youth engagement is embedded in not only our pilot sites, but in child welfare agencies, both public and private, across the nation. And we are available to help support that.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And thank you again to April for shedding so much light on the work of the QIC-EY. In the episodes ahead, we'll explore QIC-EY's 5 key engagement messages: transform passion into proficiency, make moments matter, engagement early and often, move from deciding for to deciding with, and from guest at the table to experts in the work. Each episode includes a key message, a real-world moment from a pilot site, practical skills you can apply right away, and guidance from exploring QIC-EY tools and resources that help create an environment that support engagement. This podcast is for anyone working in or alongside child welfare, across roles, systems, and levels of influence. If you're committed to elevating engagement of children and youth and strengthening engagement with individuals with lived experience, this podcast is for you. As QIC-EY enters its final year, we're proud to share these tools, lessons, and insights developed alongside our partners, pilot sites, and individuals with lived experience whose expertise continue to shape this work. We hope these episodes spark insight and action, elevating how engagement shows up in everyday practice. Join us as we elevate engagement, one moment, one skill, and one relationship at a time. This podcast is supported by the Administration for Children and Families of the United States Department of Health and Human Services as part of a financial assistance award totaling $5 million with 100% funded by ACF-HHS. The contents are those of the author or authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of, nor an endorsement by, ACF-HHS or the U.S. government. For more information, please visit the ACF website. Administrative and national policy requirements.